good evening, or good night, or good morning for one person in our party today. This is Star Stripes and Anfield Nights, brought to you by the smooth, cool music of Boston, Massachusetts. However, we do have one sneaky little person here, Mr. Lou himself. Lou, I know it is morning over there. How are you doing, my good man?
Good, good. Just got back from work, feeling energized, happy to be here. Thought I'd get myself out there to the American audience.
I know, got to get that outreach. Got to get the UK traffic up at 2 in the morning. You know, you can't let Sky have all the fun. Colin, how
I
you doing,
represent.
man? Good to see you.
I'm surviving. How about everybody else?
Listen, I got my first game tomorrow coaching. You know, I'm just gonna be staying up all night, just doing my game plans, my tactic sessions, and getting all showered up for tomorrow.
Did you get
Brandon,
any film on your team that you're playing?
nope, I have no film on them. It's
It's
gonna be
fine.
yeah, we're just going in. You know, no prep. We're just gonna figure it out as we go along. It's kind of our preseason, but it's also not. But you know, we'll see how it is. And Brandon, my last, but not certainly not least, compatriot tonight. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing all right. I've been hearing through the wire that this is the sex appeal show for LFC Transfer Room, so I'm really happy that the four of us get to be a part of that. So, yeah,
Oh yeah.
all the patches, all the facial hair, we're doing good here.
Big facts.
Listen, I'm gonna sit here and sing the Dominic Soboslai song for about the next 90 minutes. We're just gonna keep it just really relaxed. You know,
I
what
don't
was
think
it? The clubs.
I think that gets content will get pulled for that one.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll
Should
see.
have had
But
you when I joined.
that's fair. That's fair. So, but in all seriousness, guys, welcome everyone who's joining us today live and whoever's going to hop in. Just to go over our topics for tonight, we're going to talk about the report from the Daily Mail. That Sofyan Amrabat was reportedly, hours away from joining Liverpool before the deal fell apart, and then Liverpool moved for Ryan Gravenberch. We'll then chat a little bit about our next game tomorrow, which will be, I think it's 2:30 here, Colin and Brandon. And Lou, what is it tomorrow? 7:30 for you guys?
7:45.
7:45. We'll talk a little bit about that game, and then we'll talk a little bit about Liverpool apparently interested in Brentford, and lastly, we will look at just your comments and section, go a little bit extra time, keep it real nice and relaxed, some smooth tunes just to get us through the evening. So first off, as everyone may have read or not read, and we obviously missed out on the greatest midfielder of all time, and we got beat to it by the wonderful people up in Greater Manchester. Sofyan Amrabat, reported by Chris Wheeler, has said, and I quote, Liverpool's interest in Amrabat is no secret, with Jurgen Klopp said to have phoned the 27-year-old midfielder personally to try and persuade him to move to Anfield from Fiorentina to help fill the gaps left by Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, and James Milner. Now, listen, I don't know about you, but that's like earth-shattering reporting there, supposedly to have phoned as well. Colin, I'm going to come to you first, man. Obviously, Sofyan Amrabat has been signed by Manchester United. They needed a midfielder. No one can run on that team. Mason Mount just got an assist tonight, I believe. He's only 007, no assist, no goals, 7 games.
Yep.
He's now 18. He's now the age of consent in the United States. He's 0-18. He's just the age of consent now, which good for him. Legality and everything. But what are your thoughts on this piece? First of all, are you sad we missed out on Amrabat and we just signed Wataru Endo as a DM, or are you just happy we just got Ryan Gravenberch instead?
No, I'm not sad. I still think that he could have been a good player for us, and I think would fit well. Someone who's definitely willing to do the hard work and willing to do those defensive responsibilities that I think that we're going to ask for. This story just screams to me like leaked from his agent. It just like reeks of that, and I don't know if that's because I don't know if I feel like I can sense that more because I'm like older and more cynical, or maybe the agents have gotten worse at like hiding this. They used to maybe, and this, I think this is across all sports. I noticed this a lot in like when looking at like NFL football as well. I feel like I can see when this is agent spin to make the transfer to United seem good. And I think that there's definitely some elements of truth, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of it is true. But taking some truth and turning it into very positive spin, agents are always worried about that. So that's what it screams to me.
Yeah, and I think Jay Muse is reading a little bit ahead here on it. Said that we signed Gravenberch after the said they would hold for 24 hours. Yeah, so Jay Muse I didn't read the next paragraph because I feel like it would have been it defeated the purpose of my joke. I was doing the setup and the punchline. You were my punchline there, Jay Muse. I appreciate it always as well. Now, Lou, I have to ask, how much of a bastion of journalistic integrity is the Daily Mail over there in the home country for all of us?
Not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. There's other ones that are just absolutely dreadful. It's reliable. I definitely think there is a bit of truth to it. So that's something anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like Chris Wheeler is obviously a very reputable journalist for the most part. And again, it very much is. It's not really a big news deal. I'm not trying to kill our first topic of the day. I just think it's also a bit interesting. I think that Colin talked about this as well. And Lou, obviously, I want to hear your thoughts on this. The state of the transfer market, and, just agents in general. How do agents influence the transfer market? I mean, we literally talked about how Fabrizio Romano literally will just talk to agents and then players and then just repeat what he says on his Twitter feed. There's an economy, and I guess for us American fans, that's just what Adam Schefter does. That's his entire job, is just to repeat what agents tell him on his Twitter account for ESPN, and he makes multi-millions of dollars doing it. So what are your thoughts kind of on that state of the agent market and the transfer market in general?
Play too big of a role now, and I think they get money when the player gets money. They get a cut of whatever they tend to earn, especially if they get a big move. Now, we remember when Haaland was going from Dortmund to Man City, and the amount of money that was being touted, being given to his agent, was astronomical. It was more than a lot of players run. It does play a big role, and this story isn't coming out as shocking because I remember the day we signed Endo, or the day we agreed a fee, and everyone knew that Amrabat was linked. Everyone knew we were in talks, or we'd held talks with Fiorentina. So for the agent to come out and say it's nothing groundbreaking, it's nothing we didn't already know. I think now, because he's at Man United, United know that they've done much worse than us in the transfer market. So maybe this is just the agent trying to be he chose United because this is the bigger club, this is the better club, just to sort of raise the stock of the club overall. And I think he could have done a job for us. Hindsight's 2020. I definitely think he could have been a good defensive player. But at that time, when we were linked with him, I think I speak for most fans when I say we would have signed anyone because we were so desperate for a midfielder. So long run, happy we didn't get him. At the short term, at the time, disappointed. But it's not groundbreaking news that we were linked and in talks with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan, give me your thoughts too, man. Anything you want to comment on that as well? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, kind of how Colin and Lou are kind of talking about with how agents can influence stories. I remember when I first got into Liverpool, it was every single transfer window was David Villa was on his way to Liverpool. This was the summer we're getting David Villa. So or afterwards, or even a few windows later, you'll hear a player that you never heard of, oh yeah, I was this close to joining Liverpool, and you're I don't remember you at all. I don't even know what league you play in. So I mean, get that quite a bit from agents all the time. Amrabat, good player, but I'm more happy with Endo Grav than having get Amrabat. So I think Lou's kind of right. It's kind of playing up his new team so they can kind of endear himself to the new crowd.
Yeah, and obviously, United right now are not in the best press situation. The issue with Ten Hag and Sancho, obviously the Anthony situation, which we don't want to comment on because it's just the United situation. Greenwood before that as well. And again, they're not performing on the pitch. Not to wash away all that with just performances on the field, but it's obvious right now United are not in a good spot. So it is kind of one of those things where it's trying to get a little bit of a holdover, and we haven't really seen Amrabat play a lot yet. So it's kind of that unknown quality where it's
he looked great
maybe
tonight.
Got one over. Yeah, no, I mean I haven't watched the highlights or the United Palace game, but I mean, I figured he would just be a decent player. I was smart. Now I will post something else, and before we move on, Jamie, just so you know, man, no need to apologize. We just have fun here on this channel. I don't want you to take it personally, man. I appreciate all your comments and suggestions. Just it's always love here, man. Please do not take any of what I said personally. But I do appreciate you reading the article too to keep me honest. I do appreciate that. Now I will pose a counter argument to you fellas before we move on to the Leicester game. Would you have taken Amrabat over Wataru Endo? Colin, you go first.
Probably yes.
Why?
And now, entirely based on Amrabat's performances at the World Cup. I thought he dragged that Morocco team to wins at times. I think that ability to not just to do the hard work, but to like really to drag your team to a win is a kind of leadership that not all team captains do. That's not necessarily a leadership style that all have. And I think that that's something that can be special. Now, again, not to say that Wataru Endo cannot do that. I just don't watch as much of Japan. Like, very frankly, like I just don't. They're just not an international. Oftentimes, if we're in an international break, they're not playing at a time where we're awake. So it's not often that I'm catching lots of international games that he's playing in. But and I don't mean to be like he is better than him or to make a 1-to-1 comparison. But if it would have been either of those two, I would say about the same level of happiness, I think.
Okay. Lou, Brandon, you guys disagree? I feel like at times our group chat is a little too harsh on Wataru Endo, and I will rather stick up with him. I think some of you have seen some of my arguments within the group chat, essentially like coming to defense of a player saying like, listen, if he's just Lucas Leiva, that's perfectly fine. But what are your guys' thoughts on that? Would you have swapped Wataru Endo for Sofyan Amrabat?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the overall better player, the player who's going to have the better future, the player who's probably more of a like-for-like Fabinho replacement, then Amrabat would have been the one to go for. And I think you look at the price as well. Like United got him on loan, and overall, I think the package is around £30 million. But Endo was 21 million for Amrabat's 3 years younger. He's a more solid Fabinho replacement. But I think what we need to remember with Endo though is he was metric wise the most aerial duels won in the Bundesliga, the most tackles won in the Bundesliga, the most distance covered in the Stuttgart team. He's Japanese national team captain. He brings something that maybe Amrabat doesn't, which is leadership. Now, there's two different types of characters. There's people who lead by example and people who lead by being leaders, just being vocal. I think Amrabat's one of those players that he might sort of be vocal. He's willing to explain to people what they're doing wrong, what they need to do. I think Endo is a player who leads by example, and the way he plays and the way he conducts himself with professionalism and the way and the manner in which he plays is more of a benefit for the overall team, as opposed to someone who's a good player who would definitely do a job. He'd be, like I said a few times, sort of a Fabinho replacement. But I know I would rather that character around the dressing room in Endo than perhaps a player who was chopping and changing all Liverpool, United, not really sure which way to go. Whereas Endo knew he wanted to come to us. We were happy with him. And I personally have no issue. I think if you're on about which player is probably a better investment, it's Amrabat, better for the club as a whole and the way we play, I'd say Endo personally.
What do you think, Sober? What do you think about that, Brandon?
I think I agree. I think I'd take Endo. I think also the versatility, because, I mean, he has stepped back into the center back role. I don't think Amrabat has, at least into a significant part of his career, has ever, unless it was like maybe his early days. But I think he's more just that central midfield role, where Endo has a little bit more of a versatility part of his game of being able to step back in defense if absolutely needed, which we don't want that, but can if he needs to. So and also the whole stats of them running, the aerial duels, all that stuff, I think gives the Endo the edge for me.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we're playing Leicester tomorrow. Or oh god, what was that TV show with the American coach? I'm forgetting it now. Someone
Ted
remind me.
Lasso.
Ted Lasso.
That's it,
Leicester. It's like, we're going to Leicester tomorrow, fellas. We're gonna win. We're gonna play hard. We're gonna win. So terrible Ted Lasso impression, I know, but listen, that's what you get on these late night talks. I think we're gonna see Endo. My position has always been that I think Amrabat's fine as a player. I do think that, like you said, Lou, that a long-term investment, he probably makes sense. But the thing about Amrabat, if you're buying Amrabat, you're committing to Amrabat for 3 years. With Endo, you can buy him and say, I'm only committing you for 4 months. And then after that, there's not we'll move on. So that allows space to buy an Andre Trindade. It allows you space to go buy another DM if you really want to, or go invest in another area of the pitch. And I feel like Endo is just very much a low risk, high reward buy, for the most part. Now, obviously, we've got arguments about DMs and stuff and shape and pressing shape and formations and yada, 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 yada. Not the place for that right now. We can do that in another stream. But I just think that, Endo just serves, in my opinion, he serves a much better role in the Liverpool squad because he allows more flexibility for other players. When with Amrabat, it really looks like United have put all their chips in the Amrabat train. So if he does not work out or he gets injured, they kind of don't really have any midfielders. Like, they still have McTominay, but Ten Hag doesn't rate McTominay. Casemiro's legs are gone. Well, they look like they're gone, but it looks like they're going. So, if you're a United fan, I think Amrabat would be great for United. And I think that United have always needed to buy just decent players. Your Darren Fletchers, your Tom Cleverleys. That's the one thing they've been missing, is just people to run around and just win the ball. So now I think if they can keep him healthy, I think he'll be a good player for them. But that's just my opinion. Speaking of which,
you'd expect to start as well. Which
exactly.
With a backup role.
Exactly, yeah. Especially on the wage he's probably is at United too. He's probably on the same wages as like Dominic Szoboszlai, which again just speaks to the state of United as well. Again, I'm speculating, but that would be my guess as well. Speaking of which, before we move on to our next topic, everyone hit those likes and subscribes. We appreciate all the effort. If you get your comments down in the comment section, we'll be going over them in extra time today before we wrap up the evening. And let us move on to, again, as Ted Lasso would say, Leicester. So Liverpool are playing Leicester tomorrow. I believe it's at home, Lou. Again, I feel bad that I do not know this off the top of my head, but it is at home. Okay. But our next game against Tottenham is at White Hart Lane, which is going to be interesting. I do know that one. I just don't follow the Carabao Cup too much. So who are you picking? So in our comment section, I was thinking that, some people are going to say they're going to expect Kelleher. Do you see anybody else starting goalkeeper? Pitaluga, Kumas? Do you see Jurgen Kwanzaa starting? Who do you see starting in our starting 11 on Wednesday? Who are you saying needs to play, and who is just not getting even near to the pitch tomorrow? Brandon, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I'd expect Kelleher to be starting. I think that's kind of probably imperative. That's not letting him go this summer is that he's probably going to get all the runs of the cup games until we get later on if we get that far. So I think Kelleher definitely in the back. I think Kwanzaa would be starting. I think maybe Konate beside him to get Konate back into the game since obviously he didn't start the weekend. Right back. Ooh. I don't think it'd be Gomez unless Trent's ready. Maybe Gomez gets to start here. Maybe Bostic, they try it again. In the midfield, I'd like to see Endo, Grav get a start. And if depends on what's going on right back, maybe we can get Bostic into the game. Then up top, I don't want to see Darwin. I kind of want to see Yakpo getting a game because I feel like I'm not sure, at least all the streams I've been on were all very pro Darwin, and I feel like Cody's kind of getting left behind in what we think of what the team is moving forward. So I kind of want to see him get going, kind of get back into a rhythm because he seems like being a little bit out of rhythm the past few games I've seen him watch, or at least I've watched him play.
Yeah, and we have played in midfield a lot, so he does need to be able to. Get more time up as a left winger or as a center forward. And again, I think it's just figuring out what him and Jota are going to do as well. Lou, what do you think? Any odd shouts? I know Brandon mentioned Bajcetic. Obviously, I think Ben Doak. This is the perfect Ben Doak game. Is there any other youth players you could think of that would start in this game? I mean, I think Kwanzaa is the most obvious one, but I think Simic has too. Yeah. Anybody else you can think of?
To be honest, I think I'm in the minority on this. I don't think Leicester should be taken lightly. at all, to be honest. Whenever I mention this, a lot of people go, oh, they're in the Championship. They haven't got a very good squad that can compete. We're going to blow them out the water. They're actually very good. And Enzo Maresca's got them playing a very Man City style of football where they dominate the possession. They use wingers. They've got pace. They can get in behind. And in the midfield, they're very energetic and they win the ball back as quick as they can and get the ball moving. I think we need to. Kelleher needs to start. I think he was in the cup competition for 2 years ago and he played every game, including the final, and won it. Tsimikas, I'd be playing probably Van Dijk, keep his match fitness going, because obviously he missed a few games alongside Kwanzaa, getting the experience. Right back, probably Bajcetic. I think Trent's not fit enough just yet, save him for the Tottenham game, and Gomez is too static and not quick enough to be able to keep up with Mavdidi, who's a very quick player. So Bajcetic's there maybe. Endo in defensive mid, get him some game time, put him alongside Gravenberch, again, keep him going. Just keep his good form going, what he offers us, alongside maybe Curtis Jones. I'd actually have Nunez, Gakpo even, because I don't think Nunez is a tall, strong player, but against Vestergaard, who's a bigger player, I think he might get bullied off the ball a bit. So maybe having Gakpo come into midfield and provide options for the wide players is a better option. And out wide, Bendo, and I'd say Jota on the left, get him a bit more game time. I just don't think Nunez, this is his game. I think they're going to deliberately target him, especially with Wilfred Ndidi, who's able to press the way he does, Vestergaard, who's very physical and tall. I just see this as a Gakpo game, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand what you mean by they shouldn't underestimate Leicester. My only question is, are you really that invested if Leicester beat us for some it'll beat us in this round? You're very interested. You're just like you're having none of it. You want to thrash the Foxes, the fantastic Mr. Foxes from the mid. Isn't Leicester in the Midlands? Am I getting my geography right? So yeah, in that case, do you think, Colin, they're going to start Vardy?
Yeah, I think they will want to win, big time. They don't. We don't like each other. This is not one of the rivalries that I was not always aware of, and maybe it's not something that is out and out said, but their fans are nasty. They've come to Anfield several times over the past couple of years and said and chanted really horrific things every time that they're there. And I think that was the Jota goal where he scored right in front of them and
he pretty much told him that bleep off when he scored the winning pin. That's my favorite moment. I was messaging someone at the time, and I literally said I think these boys want to win it all. This was in December, and I was just watching because the way they celebrated that, he celebrated it like it was the most important thing the whole time. And the way that game was just so mad. So I do appreciate that. Everyone's let's keep the unbeaten run going. Sorry, Con, I interrupt you there.
No, you're good. The only other point I was going to say is about personnel for tomorrow. Jota's going to play and Jota's going to score. That's what I will. He loves a goal against them. He loves a goal against them. He's better in games that are kind of scrappy and kind of mean something beyond just saying that it's a rivalry. Or he really every time we play them, he looks like he plays with a real nasty streak, and I'll back him pretty heavily. I think tomorrow to get him.
Do you guys remember the Wolves 4-3? I think it was in 2018 or 2019 when Claude Puel was there at Leicester. Do you guys remember that game? I think it was 3-0 or Leicester were up heavily. I think Jota scores a hat trick to win the game, and he just gives it to them, and it's absolutely insane. So he does have a personal vendetta against Leicester by playing for Wolves. Brendan, what are your thoughts, man, on the on Vardy starting in this Leicester-Liverpool rivalry? They took Brendan from us, so it's personal now.
Oh yeah. Vardy probably have to start. I mean, they're going for it. I know they're top of the championship right now. I didn't realize how well they were truly playing, but I think best goal difference already. They'll probably coming back up. As much as I hated Yo-Yo Club, and I'm not sure how much we're allowed to curse on this on this show, but
Go ahead for it.
Yeah. Fuck the Tories. That's how I feel about Leicester. So
there we go. Yeah, we're all for that. No, absolutely. Yeah, we're all for that. This way. Yeah,
we're all in.
Yeah, we're all in. We're all in on no poverty chanting. No Liverpudlian hating clubs that self-aggrandizing. God save the king. We're not about that life. This is Stars and Stripes and Anfield Nights. We July 4th. We July 4th this country, that country, so they can get over themselves with their God save the queen and shove it.
Yeah, nothing poisoned me more to that like the whole Cinderella run for them winning the title than we're learning more about their fans. I'm like, oh, it could have really happened to a better club. Like it really could have actually.
Yeah. The popular thing is to talk about Millwall. Turns out actually a lot of clubs are more like Millwall than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Well, let's move on a little bit from that as well. I do, any sort of, I do want to ask you guys, what do you think your score prediction is going to be? Lou, go ahead.
I'm personally a bit of a pessimistic fan. I'm honestly looking at this as I think it's going to be like a 2-2 draw, and we're going to take it to penalties because I just think Leicester they've got enough attacking threat and enough characters that they're going to give it a go. And let's be honest, they're going to come back up. I think they're going to go guns blazing for the competition. They know what it takes to get a decent result at Anfield. They took us to penalties 2 seasons ago. Vardy's still there, Ndidi's still there, Pereira's still there. They've got a good.
Pereira's still there. I did not know that. He's still there, Pereira, from Porto. Back, Oh my God, that's crazy. He was like one of the best right backs in Europe.
He started against Bristol the last game, I believe.
What a time we live in that you have a world class. I think it was a starting right back for Portugal before he got injured. Is now playing in the championship. This is insane times. 2-2. I feel like I agree with that, but Colin and Brandon, I want to get your thoughts as well.
Brandon, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Colin, or Brandon. Brandon, you go, man.
Yeah, this has a feeling of dominant. Like we're going to be playing really well, and all of a sudden give up a goal out of nowhere and be down 1-0, just like we've been kind of doing of late. I want to be a little bit more optimistic. Say we do come back and get a 2-1 victory. Don't have to sit through penalties. I don't have time at work to watch penalties, so we need to win it in regular time, please.
I can hear that. I support that. Colin, what are your thoughts, man?
I would love. I think you guys bring up a great point. I would love to really smack them, but they're frankly, I think they're probably better at the moment than 4, maybe 5 Premier League teams. They're definitely better than all the bottom 3, and probably the 2 above that as well.
100%.
Not that we wouldn't back ourselves against anybody in the bottom 5 at the moment, but a motivated team, a team that could really use a run as well. 2-2 with didn't they change the Carabao Cup rules to go straight to penalties now?
Yeah, it's straight to penalties, no extra time. Yeah,
whatever. It just screams. It screams 2-2 or 3-3, and a penalty shootout.
I think
I'm okay with that though.
Competitions. No, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, Lou. I was just gonna say I'm okay if it goes to pins. As long as we win, that's all that matters. But I would love to win another pin shootout. Obviously, if it goes to pins and they win, I don't want to hear all the chants are going to come out of the Leicester end that we just know about, the tragedy chants, the poverty chants, God save the king and all that. I'm just like, I just don't want to listen to it. It's not even the fact of losing; it's more the fact of just having to listen to that smug Toriness coming out of that group, which is just so weird. It's just so weird that a city like Leicester that has very similar problems to Liverpool would be that hardcore Tory. It's just it doesn't make sense. Lou, I didn't even interrupt you, man. Continue.
No. Sorry, I interrupted you. No, I think one thing though that a lot of people also forget is the cup upsets happen because some teams take it lightly and some teams take it very seriously. And we lost to Wimbledon in 1987, which was a big shock. Northampton beat us 2010. Wigan beat Man City in 2012. So it's not out of the realms of possibility for a club in the lower leagues to beat a Premier League team. And I feel like every season everyone forgets this. So it's more to the people who just think this is going to be a war. It might be, but there's always the possibility that it's not. And I just think we need to go into this with a good squad, not a few fringe players. Just really go for it.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I think Klopp. I think we'll see a team similar to the Europa League. I think Gravenberch will start. I think Indo will start. I think Badgett will start right back. I think we'll see like the squad being used and not just like a bunch of teenagers. It will be like first teamers, like people of the first 18 to 20 in our squad. So I don't think we'll take it lightly. I think a lot of guys won't get impressed. Again, I trust this team that even if Leicester go 1-0 up or 2-0 up, like they'll figure out a way to win or draw, make parity as well, and they'll beat them. And that's all that matters. That's really all that matters if we beat them. I don't care if we get knocked out after that. We can't lose to this slot. That's just too much. We'll get City next, and we can be like, we'll just lose 2-1. No, who cares? It's the Carabao Cup, but we have to at least beat Leicester at that point. Alrighty, so let us move on. And before we move on, everyone, we have over 20 people watching right now, so make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit those likes, get those comments in. I will be saving them for extra time when we get done with all our topics tonight. And again, like I said, I'm going to keep it light and breezy. Just mention some terrible things that happened within Premier League football this season. All the chance and stuff, and just bashing on Leicester for no reason. A city I've never been to. I don't think Colin and Brendan have been there too. Lou, have you been to Leicester before?
It's actually quite nice.
Yeah, no. So we're just bashing the concept of Leicester. We're bashing the concept of Leicester City fans. I don't think there's another. Is there another club in Leicester that I don't know about, like a small club or something?
I'm trying to think who their derby is. I can't actually remember. I think they're like the main one. It's probably similar to London, the way how like Dagenham and Redbridge is a London team, but they're like a smaller one. There probably is, but I just don't know it.
I think their natural derby is Norwich, isn't it? That would be.
It might be. I
think Norwich have
I'm
a
not
couple,
very good
but I
myself.
can't.
Yeah, but I was gonna say that Norwich are all the way over there at East Anglia, like it's on the far end of like the island. What are you gonna say, Brendan?
It says their main rival was Notts Forest.
Okay, that makes sense because like they're literally like right next to each other. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna back Notts Forest over Leicester anyways, just because they have Steve Cooper in charge. All right, guys. So let's move on to a player, because this is a Liverpool transfer room podcast, and we got to have a player we're interested in. But this one I actually think would be interesting. So Liverpool are reportedly interested in signing Aaron Hickey from Brentford. Yes, his last name is Hickey. Those things that we have to hide from our parents when we were younger. So so cold spoon, guys. Great way of removing bruises and gals. Future information that you guys will need. You learn a lot over here on the night shift. So, what are you guys' thoughts on Aaron Hickey? First, did you know he exists? Second, have you watched Brentford play this year? Third, would you sign him? He is a fullback. He is 6'1", and he is Scottish. I'm all for those three things. And I think Anthony just asked. Yes, his name is Aaron Hickey from Glasgow, Scotland. What do you guys think? What do you guys think, Colin?
I watch Brentford a fair amount. I don't have particularly strong opinions on him, like one way or the other, which is like, doesn't make for the best content. Like I should be like, he's terrible. I can't believe we would ever be linked. I just don't like. I've seen him play.
So he plays left back. So I'll give you some. So he plays left back.
Fine.
He plays for Brentford. He has 103 career games. He's played for Hearts, and then he played at Bologna for about 2 years with Serie A. So he's 21. He's 6'1". He's left back. What do you think now? Have I got you interested?
I'm evenly interested as I was previously. Sure, but this feels to me like an Andy Robertson question, which was like he played at Hull, like. He's from Glasgow. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, a left back, a Scottish left back? Sure, I guess. Like, fine with me. Not my money. If they think he's good enough to play, like I trust the coaching staff and the development team to make him a good enough player to at least be a backup or a good squad player, which I think is frankly on the transfers that we've had since. Really almost the entire time that Klopp's been here, like the transfers we brought in, the minimum like level that they've pretty much been is like decent squad player. So I don't think we're gonna swing and miss that bad. Sure, sign him up.
Swing and miss, you might get a Hickey. Hey, we're keeping the jokes up here. We keep it fresh. Yeah. Brandon, I need that set play in the background, man. I know you get those music producer headphones. But Brandon, let me come to you as well. So I think this is actually very interesting because, Costas Tsimikas just signed a long-term contract. If they're already looking at a fullback, in this case a left back who also plays midfield, does that kind of tell you that they're looking at someone to do the Trent inverted role but on the left side, and they might be looking either to phase Robinson out or sub Robinson on? What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I kind of think that I wasn't actually thinking that, but now that you say it, it makes a little bit more sense. Like, be able to kind of flip the formation if we need to without just having to rely on Trent to do that role itself. Just gives us another form of attack. I was thinking, like, with signing Costas, this deal doesn't make sense, but now that makes a little bit more if we were to go for it. I'm going to be the exact opposite, Colin. I've not watched Brentford, but am intrigued by the player just because he is a Scottish player that went to Italy and had success at a very young age. I know Italy is kind of more of a defensive league, and he scored 5 goals from a left-back role. I mean, shows he has some form of attacking prowess moving forward. I don't know, but if he's coming into play kind of more that center midfield, left-back role, there's a lot of players over the years that started out on the, in those fullback roles, eventually formed into a midfield player. I mean, if I'm thinking correctly, Stevie started off at the right back and eventually became a midfielder over time. So, I mean, that could be what he ends up developing into down the road. So I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm buying. It's not going to be anything that's going to happen this year because he wants to play for Scotland in the Euros. So, I mean, it's not going to happen in the winter. It may be next summer at the earliest.
Yeah. Now, another club interested is Arsenal, and Arsenal kind of needing the left back. I mean, he pretty much is just, Zinchenko, but rather than, Zinchenko being a 10, that Pep turned into a left back and then turned into like an inverted midfielder. And then, Arteta just pulling the Ange Postecoglou going, I'm just calling Pep, mate. But it is like Basque accent. Lou, what are your thoughts on Aaron Hickey? One, are you a Bees? Are you a hit and B fan? You just love you some Brentford, some Thomas Frank. I mean, I love some Ivan Toney, so what are your thoughts on Aaron Hickey? If you've seen him,
yeah, he looks solid. He's one of these ones I don't know a massive amount about, but if it's someone that Klopp's identified, I trust it. I trust the process. It's the same as what Colin said. If it's who he wants, I've got no issue with it. You can only think of like maybe 3 or 4 players Klopp signed that haven't really worked out, and they were in the early seasons. With regards to Hickey, he's been capped for Scotland 11 times since 2022, and that's Scotland's strongest position with Robbo and Tierney as the 2 options. So there's clearly something there. I think as well, though, the only thing we need to consider is in that back line, back 4, I'd say left back's the one position that I don't need to worry about. It's the most secure, solid position with 2 good options. And if he plans to move him into, like you said, that inverted defender role, maybe defensive midfield, similar to what Trent's done or what Kimmich did at Bayern, not a problem. But then what would be the point in signing Gravenberch and all these other midfielders if that was the initial plan? So to me, it just seems like a bit of speculation. I'd happily have him if the price is right. It's just not a position which I feel like we need to necessarily address right now. I think there's other crucial areas of the pitch, such as centre-back, maybe still that defensive midfield if Endo doesn't work. And I just don't think the left-back spot needs the attention right now if this is a player that we're targeting, to be completely honest.
Saw them quote him at £50 million.
Yeah. Well, that is Arsenal.
Necessary, like.
Well, that's Arsenal.
Not necessary with not necessary with a need like a center back or a defensive midfielder. Like it just is like that seems like money that if we had unlimited spendable money, as we often wish that we did, sure, whatever, 50 left back, great, whatever. 50 on a left back when we need a defender, a central or more central defender, and a midfielder. Like I don't really see that as like intelligent business. But again, it's not my money, so like what do I care mostly? So
no, I completely agree. completely agree. And there was a comment I just saw then that was saying, well, what if Saudi want Robbo? For Andrew Robertson, we'd get an excessive amount of money, maybe 80, 90 million, because of the way they just splash cash, similar to what we saw with what they were trying to do with Salah.
Yeah.
So if they give us that money, then fine, sign them up all you want. But we operate in a system where we have to sell players to buy players. And selling players to get a third choice left back for £50 million when we've just signed Costas to a new contract doesn't make a whole lot of financial sense or sense in a strategy system. If they plan on playing him in a different position, brilliant, but just sign someone for that position if that's what you want him to do.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I do think there's an argument that you could also sign and have him play right back instead. Now, what I will say is, Colin, I apologize for my wife and my cat, both cats making an appearance there. Just
it is really all right.
I was just saying their timing is absolutely terrible. I'm just like, they should have done it when I was talking instead of while you was talking. But yes, I absolutely agree with you. I do think with 50 million as a quote, that is just way too much. That's just way too much. That's just way too much money, especially when, there's an argument that you need defenders. There's an argument like Lou said, and I think everyone's agreeing with this, that, we probably need to sign a defensive mid sometime in the future, because the way we're playing, I think we're moving to double pivots. I think red, white, and red I mentioned here, not cat size. Yes, those are two big cats. They are ragdolls. They are naturally very big. The invert the whole back line. Listen, red, white, red. I don't know how much football history you go back to the 1900s, like 1910s, 1920s. Go back to Herbert Chapman at Arsenal and Huddersfield Town when he won three leagues on the bounce. He won it with what's called the WM formation. The 3-box-3 is just the WM formation coming back. So we're literally having the tactics from the 19th century come back when stores were like 7-2 and all that. So yeah, I also agree with you guys. I don't think for 50 million you should sign him. Who would you sign in that case? If you have 50 million right now, who are you signing in January? And let's say this is in January for right now because it's the next transfer window. Who are you signing? Colin, I'll come to you first, man.
A center back. And I don't particularly care. Well, yeah, center back or a central midfielder. I don't. There's all of a sudden, like, I don't think that there are a ton of holes in the squad. I don't think that there are, like, I still think probably a real, like, defensive minded midfielder would do. I think maybe
do you have a name in mind?
I don't. I mean, I could be swayed into like one of 10 people at either position. I just like don't.
So my counter argument to that is this: if there are so many of them that you would just sign essentially to plug a hole, would you just say like Trindade is the best option and then just hold and wait until you see what other options are available?
Could be.
Brandon, Lou, do you guys have any players that are just burning in your mind that you really want to end? I mean, obviously Andre's the big one because we mentioned him so much from Fluminense, but Lou, what do you think? And then I'll get Brandon the last part on this.
I agree. Centre back is the next area we need to address. If it's only 50 million, there's not too many sort of solid centre backs that are going to jump in. But I'd love Mark Gahey from Palace. I think he'd be so good. Good young player who's played in a Chelsea system where they rely heavily on ball possession at the back, especially under the likes of not Conte, Tuchel. He's doing brilliant at Crystal Palace. He's starting to get into the England squad now, so there's the link up with Trent. I think he'd be a great option if we wanted a long-term partner to Konate once Van Dijk eventually does start settling down and leaving. Failing that, Colwill would have been ideal, but he's not having the best season. Or it's hard, but Mark Gahey. I think he's the one I'm thinking of first and foremost of anyone.
So I have a person for you, Brandon. I'll come to you, man. But I just want to pick his brain, and Brandon, you can also give me your thoughts on this, and Colin too, if you have thought as well. Chelsea are crap this year. Pochettino gets sacked by December. They're 10th again. Their FFP books are just off the chain. They need to sell players. Do you take 50 million and you go to Chelsea? It's like, hey, I know you signed Colwell to an 8-year contract. Here's 50 million, give them to us. Would you do that?
I wonder if Chelsea will never do business with us ever again. or vice versa.
Yeah, I think the same.
Legitimately. Yeah. Like I wonder if, especially let me clarify with Todd Bowley. The man is, for Lou, I don't know how familiar you are with American sports. Todd Bowley and his management style, and we've seen this with the Dodgers, is the pettiest owner in all of American sports. And so, based on the kind of anger that I think he had towards us making a run at the player that he had spent all this time kind of courting, coupled with, I think you're right, Dan. I think that they're bad, right? Especially right now, they're not good. And if that continues, I don't. With that, like both of those levels of anger, I don't see them ever like coming to the table to speak.
So I agree with you for the Todd Bowley situation. I would say I'm trying. When was the last player we bought from Chelsea? Lou, I'll let you come back in on this, Lou, because I know I kind of interviewed mid-thought there, so I do want to bring you back into this. So, Lou, did we buy it? When was the last time you bought a player from Chelsea? Like, honestly.
Would have been Sturridge.
Right. Yeah,
Sturridge.
I think he's the last I remember. Oh,
yes.
No, Dominic Solanke. Dominic Solanke was the last one.
So
did we buy him or did we get him after his contract expired? We had to pay him a tribunal.
I think it was a tribunal fee. Yeah. It was a tribunal fee, yeah. No, I mean, so I absolutely agree with you, Colin. I think you hit the nail on the head with that as well. I would say though that Todd Bowley is erratic enough, and for some reason doesn't like John Henry enough. I think he dislikes John Henry more than Damo, and that is a very, 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 very high bar to clear. Damo, love you, man. Love all you do. Please don't take this joke too seriously. But Lou, I mean, so like Gahey, I know you mentioned Mark Gahey, but if you're spending $50 million on a center back, I think Gahey's good, but I mean, he's 6 foot. I'm just being honest. Like right now, we have a team of 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guys. If you're buying someone who's gonna be your center back, I would say it's Schlotterbeck. Nico Schlotterbeck at Borussia Dortmund would be who I would go for. Though I think Dortmund don't sell. I don't think they sell lower than like 70 mil. Like so that would be my opinion out of right now. But all things aside, would you try and get Colwell out of Chelsea again? Would you bet the ranch on trying to do that again? Or do you think Liverpool should just be like, no way, Jose, we're not doing business with these cranks over here at the bridge, these Chelsea cranks, pure Chelsea at the bridge. What are your, like, I still want to hear your thoughts on that, Lou. What do you think?
If it's form, I mean, I think in the right system, under the right manager and the right team, he'd definitely flourish. I mean, it's a gamble that could pay off. And like I've said, he could definitely fit in. One thing, going back to what Colin was saying, was it the Dodgers? Did you say Bowley's? He's the chairman, obviously, the owner.
Yeah. So a little baseball history. They bought Mookie Betts, who came to the Boston Red Sox. Again, Boston Red Sox owned by Fenway Sports Group. John Henry, like favorite team, all this stuff growing up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mookie Betts was a player that the Boston Red Sox had developed and drafted, and he was essentially like their leader on the field. They didn't re-sign him. Dodgers came in and re-signed him. Red Sox fans have been angry since 2018. So for like the past 4 or 5 years, they just fired their GM over here as well, and they're like, good, now get rid of the whole board and everybody, because they're just mad because the Dodgers Bowley came in and just spent a whole bunch of money. I think Mookie Betts is like a $300 million contract. It's like absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Does he play like outfield? I don't remember what position he plays. Colin, I know you're a Pirates fan, so you probably know this. Does he play outfield or shortstop?
He plays all of the. He's probably the most athletic baseball player. He's certainly, I think, top three in terms of just talented overall baseball players. And Todd Bowley hates John Henry. There's some behind some reporting and some stuff that's been written about they really don't like each other at all.
I have to read more into this because I find this so fascinating. And like Jay Muse mentioned, we need a book about the Caicedo saga as well. Oh yeah, no, I need to read that book as well.
But yes, Lou, the Dodgers owned by Todd Bowley, and that is all. The Mookie Betts saga really was what kind of did it for cementing their bad relationship between FSG.
Well, this is from like a British sort of perspective of ownership from America. We have a sort of view of it of American owners are here to do business. They're not passionate about the product, similar as if a British owner was to go to America and invest in, say, like the Rams or something. That's the first one that popped in my head. I don't know why. And I did a video on it yesterday on my channel that Todd Boehly has come into a club which is a British institution, which has a rich history in English football, and it feels like he's treating it as though it's a financial benefit to him rather than turning the product into something for the fans, which is what football should be. And it's the same as what a lot of fans feel towards Liverpool with FSG, but we do it smarter. Todd Boehly's come in with this notion of you can spend whatever you want, buy whoever you want, and it'll work. It's, there's no structure to it, and it casts a bad light on American ownership when in actuality a lot of them are very good at what they do. In my opinion, FSG, I quite like FSG. So he's a bad representation of not only how football clubs should be run, but American business in general. He casts a bad light on it, in my opinion.
Yeah. And listen, I'm all for making fun of Chelsea. I know that stuff as well, but Chelsea as a London club do have history. I think they were the first club to win a European trophy. I think it was the what was it? Was it the Interfolk Cup or the the old Europa League, Lou? I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the early 60s.
Yeah. But I mean, in the 90s, before Abramovich, they were still.
Yeah,
he didn't buy the club until 2003. So
absolutely, yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, so here's the thing. I've always said that I think FSG are more passionate about Liverpool than I think they're given credit. It's always their nature of ownership, even for something they all love, baseball. They're not active owners in that as well, so they very much approach it with a very distant, hire the right people, let them do the job mindset, which is something that you don't see a lot even in American sports. Like it's insane when you get to like South American and Brazilian sports and like Europe, where like, the average manager in Brazil is like 4 months. People go there, get sacked the first 3 months, come back 9 months later, win the title, get sacked 3 months later. Like it's absolutely insane how it works sometimes. Yeah, no, I totally get that perspective. And I think my issue with Boehly has always been the fact that he very much is someone who has taken a shotgun to a very delicate team situation, which is obviously a very American approach to some degree, not very precise, not very like structure based. He very much came in with like this idea of, I'm going to be disruptive in the market like he was with the Dodgers. I'm going to approach it with a baseball mentality. Then I'm going to get people on a long contract, build this team, which there is an argument and approach for that as well. But I think he's also like, I think he just fundamentally does not understand the sport of football versus baseball. Baseball, you can completely gut your team and rebuild in a year and you're great. Football, it's much more delicate than that because it's chemistry. It's a constant moving. Yeah. I just don't think he understood that. I think when he finally realized he made a mistake and tried to correct it, he's kind of dug himself in the hole. But that's my thoughts. Brandon, I'll get your last thoughts on that, man, and then we'll move on to our last topic.
There was a lot there between so what exactly am I talking about right now?
Anything, Brandon. Your thoughts on anything, man. I want to hear your voice on it as well. Like, listen, Brandon, you're a man of many words, many knowledge, many blessings. I want to hear any of it.
Yeah. I was going to go back, as somebody said about Robbo going to Saudi. With what Robbo gets paid at Liverpool, I don't think the money will ever be a pull for him to go to Saudi. So I don't think that's like one to be super over about, because I think Robbo is one of the, in terms of like the starters, I think he's the lowest earner by quite a bit. I think most players who come in new earn more than Robbo. So I don't think like the allure of Saudi money is going to be a real big pull for Robbo. I don't know. I just wanted to go back to that real quick. And then you stole my thunder, Dan, with Schottler. That's who I think is like who they want at that left center back role. I think that's like the guy they want. If Dortmund get knocked out of the Champions League and maybe they finish fourth in their group and are completely out of Europe, I think maybe that could have some legs in January if they want to do the business as quick as possible. But that a lot's got to happen for that to happen. And then, with the Chelsea stuff, I don't think we ever do business with Todd Boehly. I think also I don't want to do them favors. Like they put themselves in this mess. I'm not doing them any favors. They can just rot. That's why I hated, Newcastle buying that player with like 13 minutes of professional football for $30 million. It's like, why are you helping them out? Why is Arsenal spending $65 million on Kai Havertz when you could have got him for 20 million they're so desperate to get rid of people. It
We
doesn't
can
make
do a whole show. We can do a whole show on Arsenal's transfers, spending 65 million. 65 million. They spent the same amount of money
the fact they
that we
recoup
paid for.
insane. It just blows my mind that they recoup their
Yeah.
money.
The fact that Arsenal paid the same amount of money that we paid for the handsome Hungarian, the magnificent Magyar,
Yeah.
Dominic Szoboszlai. I mean, listen, I know people say Arsenal have good business. I think that someone should lose their job over that they paid that much money for Kai Havertz over Dominic Szoboszlai or so many other great midfielders. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to move into our last topic today, and then we'll move into extra time, and then I'll let everyone get some sleep, especially Lou, who had a very long day today, and I appreciate his hard efforts coming on here and giving us his thoughts and his voice on the matter. So, Francois Plateau, not the most reliable source, but he did report that Jurgen Klopp is said to have, quote-unquote, seriously considered signing a new long-term deal with Liverpool. Klopp's current deal runs until 2026, so the summer 26 will be his last year, and he would sign out. Like, his contract would run out. This is coming off the back of Xabi Alonso reportedly replacing Ancelotti at Madrid, which I always thought was going to happen, especially with how good he's been at Leverkusen and the fact that Xavi's at Barcelona. It feels like these clubs are going back to signing like former players. They did with Zidane. And, who took over the Germany job? It was Nagelsmann, Julian Nagelsmann, just took over the German national team job. So I'm not going to ask, do we want Klopp to stay? Because I think the only answer is yes. So we want him to stay until the end of time, just like most of the law. Do you see this being a realistic possibility that he extends beyond his current contract? Brandon, because you didn't get we waited too long to get to you. What do you think about this, man?
I think I was on a show a couple weeks ago where I said I thought Klopp would step away after the end of this contract after 2026. That'd be 3 years with this team. I'm kind of moving back towards hopefully I want him to stay forever. That's not me saying I want him to go at 2026. I want him to stay forever, but I thought that's kind of when he does. That'd be the end of the next World Cup cycle. So if he wanted to take the German job, that would be kind of the perfect time for him to jump and to have a whole cycle, because obviously Klopp is not something you teach in 6 months and you understand and you're ready to go as a team, especially in a national team system. So I think he would want a whole cycle if he's going to do the German job. So that's why I thought 2026 made sense for him. But hopefully there's legs. I know it's not a most reliable source. I want him to stay forever. I want to meet him, and I want to hug him, and I don't know. I'm a sober person, but I'd drink a beer with him. So
I listen. I completely understand that. I would be right there with you. Did you guys see the video of him giving it the big one to the cop at the end of the West Ham game? But I've never seen him. He was bouncing. He looked like 4 years younger. He didn't look stressed. This man was just having a great time.
Really invested in this team.
Yeah, he loves his team. And honestly, that was my biggest hope going into this year, is that Klopp looked happy. He was like, oh, I can do wonders with these guys. No knock against our former players, but I feel like he always had to figure out what to do with them. But now he's just I can just ask him to do anything. He's I can ask Szoboszlai to do right wing, right mid, right defensive mid, right back, and right center back, and he'll just do it. No problems. Lou, what are your thoughts on this, man? Do you think Klopp extends beyond his current year? And if you do think so, how many years do you think he would extend for, ideally?
Well, I think this Liverpool 2.0 thing has rejuvenated them in a sense. Last season, he looked beaten down. He looked tired. He started to say things that we were maybe he doesn't want to be there. Just forgive that though. Just put fuel to the speculation. Tom Werner, the club owner, he's attended our last 2 matches, and apparently he's met with all the senior figures at the club, including Klopp, because they want to address the situation. He knows that the fans of both Liverpool and the Boston Red Sox have been unhappy, so they want to put up a united front now. Whether or not that's to do with Klopp's contract or it's just for public face, who knows? I'm leaning more towards him staying because of the project that we're doing. I think if he does, it'll only be by another 2 years. I think he's not at an age now where he's going to do what he did in his first contract extension, which is 5 years, go until 2031. I think he's going to do it 2 years at a time, see where we are as a club. And if after 2 years the project's still right and he can still see a future, another 2 years on top of it. If he's unhappy, he feels drained, he'll leave. He'll take a sabbatical and then go to the Germany job or a different club. He says it himself, he puts 110% into everything. And for someone managing one of the biggest clubs in world football, it's going to be draining. And I just don't see him committing to a long-term contract. I just see him doing it nice and steady at a time, similar to when a footballer gets to the older age and they do one-year extensions on top of each other. And I just think that's how he'll play it for the rest of his Liverpool career. 2028, I think, will be the next one if he is to extend.
So I completely agree with that. I think it would be a 2-year contract and maybe on a revolving basis. What I would say, though, is that by 2028, he would be 61. And if there's one thing I do want to say about Klopp, he is a family man. He has values of a human person. His personality as a manager, there's no facade. He is exactly as you is on the pitch. And it's something I always tell coaches when they're trying to figure out their personality. I'm like, just be you, whoever you is. Like, if you're like intellectual, be intellectual. If you're like if you're very bombastic, be bombastic. You know, like when you're a coach, you just have to be as authentic as possible because there's no other way you're gonna get buy-in from the team. Like Ula, his wife, was a very big influence on him signing his new contract. So my one thing about him not signing a new contract is the fact that it may interfere with him being a granddad, because he is a granddad now, and he does want to spend time with his grandkids and go out. Now, to be fair, he does get his summers off, so he does, like, at the end of May he can leave for like a whole month, maybe even longer in July, and go away. But it is a demanding job being the manager of Liverpool. Essentially, like, when you get back into July, it's essentially from July until May. So it's not an easy job, by any stretch of imagination. But Colin, what are your thoughts? Do you think he extends? Lou mentioned Tom Warner being there potentially. I think Tom Warner there is also, Lou, because they're negotiating all these contracts. Tread's contract, Costas' contract, Mattis' contract as well. Yeah. And even though Mike Gordon's usually the liaison between FSG and Liverpool, Warner is the chairman of Liverpool, and if any contract is getting signed up, he is the one who has to literally go, like, Tom Warner, chairman, assign and approve as well. So I do think there is something to that. But Colin, give me your thoughts, man.
I think everything that you guys have said is correct. And my thought about the kind of timeline of it, and this is the way that it makes the most sense in my head. So World Cup in 26 and World Cup in 30, right? So my best thought is Jurgen's going to stay to 28. Jurgen will take the summer and the end of that year and then the beginning of the next off. Start then with Germany, go 2 years and a World Cup with Germany, and then probably go till, I don't know, maybe one World Cup cycle then till he's 65. My thoughts are as well, like, being the national team manager, it doesn't require you as much to be like in the physical space of like as much as like being being the manager of Liverpool requires you to be in the city, requires you to be at the training ground. And when you're the national team manager, like, there's more like he can be at home in Germany and be with his family and be with his grandkids. About his first grandkid, like you said, was just born this year. So what, 2028 it would be like, they'd be like turning 5 in 28. And that would be right around where, like, I feel like when you're a grandparent, like, that's where, like, if he wanted to take his grandkid to his, like, U5, U4, like, training and like little games, like, that's where, like, being a grandfather, you can be really hands-on rather than just like, obviously, like, he could be changing diapers and whatever now as well. But
yeah,
I would see him more as like a grab him by the arm and like, we're gonna like go play in the park or go do things like that. So my best guess is he gives it 2 more years on the Liverpool contract, 28. Does take the Germany job. I mean, they've been circling it. It makes sense that like there was talks about the Germany job, and there was talks. Now all of a sudden there's talks about his future contract, and it all like those all line up. And I think that would make the most sense. Gives him enough time to really build a team and have time with that team here, but isn't going to be like another 8 years on top of that.
Yeah, and I think Germany's a very interesting situation right now where they very much lack a unifying factor. If anybody here pays attention to German politics, I think it's very obvious that there is this big, like, separation between what was the old East Germany and what was the Federal Republic of Germany as well. You have in the eastern sections, you have the AfD, this very far right party that's essentially coming back up into power. There's very much this sense of disunity, this degeneration of essentially German nationality at the most part. And Klopp is, I'm going to say that he's probably the most German man of all time. He's blue-eyed, bearded, tall, loud, passionate. I know it's like that's not what we think as stereotypical German, but he's just, and when you hear him speak German, it's so cool because like as someone who knows German, like the way he expresses things in German is just so perfect because there's no perfect translation in English. It's usually like a combination of ideas and themes, and Germans have a word for everything. So I think if what'd you say the next World Cup cycle is 2026, Colin? And
26 is the World Cup in the United States, and then 30 would be after. So 26.
Yeah, so I could see him extending beyond 2026 if there was a hint that he would take the national team job. And I think that if he extends after 2026, that would be his last contract. I don't think he would stay beyond 2026, even if it's a year or just or just 2 years as well. All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. It's gonna give us some extra time, but we're an hour and 6 in. I feel like we've had a really good time here. Before we go, guys. So my question is, and someone had mentioned this, Jay Muse, if you could have Klopp or Edwards come back, what would you have? Edwards come back and Klopp leaves in 2026, or Klopp stays and Edwards does not come back? I mean, we already know he's not coming back because he's at this job, but let's say hypothetically you could have that choice. What do you do? I'll give you 5 seconds.
Klopp.
I had 2 Klopps. Yeah. Colin, are you gonna?
Easy.
Yeah, Klopp. You can find other really, really great businessmen who can run
Fair
sporting department.
Hey, Edward can give a horrible manager great players, but you still have a horrible manager gelling great players together, and it will not work. I just think Chelsea's bought a lot of great young talents, but you can't just go out there and do it.
Yeah,
have somebody who's really to gel that team, and Klopp.
So, Jay Muse, I would agree with you too, but obviously, like, you can't always have both in the world, and obviously, Edwards is allowed to choose his own career path as well for this hypothetical, but I do appreciate you answering, Klopp. I do want to leave us on this, which is that when Borussia Dortmund fired Klopp, they said at the time, they were like, we could either change 11 players or one manager, and we chose one manager. They said, we think we made the wrong choice. And for Dortmund's old GM to essentially say, yeah, we should have just gotten rid of all the players and kept Klopp. Look at what Dortmund's achieved since then. They've essentially underachieved every single year, even last year when they should have won the title. I think that's telling us right now that the most important person to stay at Liverpool, it's not the team, it's not the higher-ups, it's not the ownership. Right now, it's Jurgen Klopp. And that may change in a couple of years, but for right now, Klopp is Liverpool, and Liverpool is Klopp. It's been Stars and Stripes and Anfield Nights. I've been your host, Dan. I've been joined by the wonderful Lou, the magnificent Colin, and the ever so wonderful Brandon. All my mates. Love you guys. Have a good night or a good morning, or if you're in California, a good evening. So long, everyone.